Allow this video to be your luminous guide, illuminating your path with wisdom and inspiration.
The neurological system in the body, if we have a way of monitoring that, killing the pain completely at certain moments when we want to, just by touching certain parts of the body.
Well, let me pose you a question, Sadhguru. So, we can perhaps work as individuals to, now that I know I take away wakefulness and not consciousness, right? To move towards consciousness. And that's an individual's decision to maybe train in this particular way. So, is there some way that we can harness these insights like you have, harness this understanding, and use it as anesthesiologists to take care of patients? Because if we can reduce it to, or if we can adapt it, I should say reduce, if we can adapt it in that way, that would be very, very helpful, because we would be using the powers in a way that would control, have to use the word, the brain, in a way that would be perhaps more physiologic.
I'm not the expert in the subject, but because you're asking me the question, I'll say something. But you're the expert in anesthesiology, is it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. In my simple understanding, anesthesia as a process has come into being in this world, or is existing right now, because there is pain. Pain, when it happens to us, is a bad thing. Nobody wants pain. But at the same time, if there was no pain, most people would not even know how to preserve their own body. See, wherever there is no pain, in how many ways they've cut it. Suppose there was no pain in your nose, they would have cut it in various shapes. It is part of the fashion. If there's no pain at all, believe me, they would have pulled out intestines and swing it on the street and go. You have any doubt about that?
None whatsoever.
So, essentially because there is pain in the body, and pain is a protective mechanism, because most human beings still don't have the necessary intelligence even to preserve themselves. If there was no pain, even if a bicycle comes, people step back, don't think this is out of civilization. Consequence of pain. If there was no pain, even if a truck comes, they would just walk. Yes, they would. So, because of pain, so pain is essentially a protective mechanism for us. Without it, people wouldn't know how to stay alive, how to stay in one piece, they would have cut themselves into pieces. So, but sometimes, as what is called as surgery, is in some way cutting people up.
Sure.
So it has become a necessity to cut someone. How to cut them? With minimum amount of disturbance to the system. That's the whole effort. So in this effort, as you said, essentially you're disengaging different parts of the brain. I don't know if it's an exact science or it's generally getting disengaged. Whichever way, is it getting effectively disengaged that people go through surgeries without even knowing what happened? When something major was done to them, their ribs were opened up and ribcage was opened up, heart was opened up, brain was opened up, they don't even know what happened. Very innocently, they wake up after a day or so, whatever amount of time. So this is anesthesia. How could we use… See, one dimension, because when we were speaking in the room, when you said, essentially, if I'm wrong, please correct me, you're monitoring the physiological systems of heartbeat, blood pressure and temperature and
brain waves,
whatever else, the physiological factors. If… I don't know if it's even a possibility, but if you find a way to monitor the neurological system, ignoring the physiological system completely, See, the concern may be the moment you put somebody on the table and start opening the body, the concern of a doctor or a surgeon may be that you don't want him dead on the table. So you're watching his heartbeat, you're watching his pulse and you're watching his all the other parameters. I understand and appreciate that concern, but instead of, okay, let's leave the physiological monitoring as it is, but if we have a way, I don't know if there is a way in the medical science, if we monitor the neurological system, not just the brain, the neurological system in the body, if we have a way of monitoring that, I think the entire art of anesthesia could raise to a different level at a very minimum interference. It could happen because why I'm saying this is, there is something called as marma in yoga and also in what is called as kalari in South India. It's a certain form of martial art. Marma is a way of killing the pain completely at certain moments when we want to, just by touching certain parts of the body, handling body in a certain way. So essentially what we are doing is, the neurological system, we're shutting it off. And there is no pain at all. We can go ahead and do what we have to do, and only when we release it, the pain will come back. So, using that as a basis, I'm saying, if medical science has a way of monitoring the neurological impulse as it's happening, and if there is some way to introduce anesthetics in whatever form that you use, I don't know all the cocktails that are used, but if it is done properly, probably, I'm just guessing, I'm not an expert on this, probably with 2% or 3% of your medicine, you could still have the same effect on the patient. Because how you use any medicine on the body and how you use it on the neurological system, I would say 1% of what you use on the muscle, if you use it on the nerve, it will produce equal effect.
But it's interesting, because I think what you're saying has contact also with the work that we do in the recovery phase, and there are people now looking very carefully at cardiac and brain interactions, and they do signal some of these changes, and it's suggestive. I mean, that maybe more of the body could be engaged in the way we think and measure, and that makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
If you create consecrated space, if maximum number of people are constantly in touch with consecrated spaces, you would see human beings would blossom with a completely different sense of wholeness, homogeneity, an organic way of looking at life, above all, full-fledged human being.
What living in a consecrated space means is, this Isha Yoga Center I feel like the whole space is just so energetic and so vibrant. I could just go throughout the day, keep going without even a moment of tiredness.
So, consecration essentially means to make a physical space reverberate with a non-physical dimension of energy. In a way, that's what you are. This body is a physical thing, but right now it's reverberating with a non-physical dimension of energy, otherwise it cannot be alive for a moment. If you know how to touch this, you don't need any consecrated space, because this is a consecrated space. But you're not able to touch this. So we want to create that kind of energy in a more palpable way, where you can touch it, where you can feel it. So consecration is the science of bringing that forth in such a way that it's palpable, that you can almost touch it.
So every day before my Hatha Yoga practice, I usually try to take a dip in the Surya Kund, which is an energized body of water. I can definitely feel a distinct difference when I take a dip and then do my Hatha Yoga practice.
The word tirth means inflamed or energized water. We can energize water in different ways, as today there is substantial science telling us that water has memory. This is something that we've always known in this culture, that water has memory. How you treat it, accordingly it behaves within you. The water that you drink, the water that you get into, if you treat it in a certain way, accordingly it behaves, responds to you in a certain manner. This body being over 70% water, if the water around you and the water that you take in are pleasant or energized in a certain way, this entire system can change. If the water behaves well within you, 72% of your problem is over. So Tirthakund is an opportunity for people to transform the waters within themselves. So this is an energized pool, it really brings balance and stimulation to your nervous system without any stimulants. Above all, it balances the energy within you. The energy body comes to a certain level of balance and rejuvenation.
So to enhance my experience of the Dhyana Linga, I often go to the Surya Kund. I stay there for some time and then go to the Dhyana Linga, and I can see my experience there is much more powerful.
Whenever I feel overwhelmed during the program, I go directly to Dhyana Linga. The moment I close my eyes in this place, I become meditative naturally. I don't even try to meditate. It's really a privilege that we have a great support system in form of these consecrated spaces. It makes me more balanced and focused.
What is unique about the Dhyana Linga is that it is a manifestation of all the 7 dimensions or the 7 chakras. When I say all the 7 dimensions, the human physiology is constructed this way. It is a meditative force. There is no worship, there is no ritual, there are no offerings for the Dhyana Linga. All that you're required to do is sit there quietly. One has to just simply sit there to experience and imbibe the energies of Dhyana Linga. It's a live form. It has everything. As an energy body, it has everything as a peak human being would have. Only a physical body is absent, but in all other ways, it is like a living guru. So it is an opportunity for a spiritual seeker to do his sadhana in the presence of a live guru. The most fundamental thing why a spiritual seeker seeks a guru is because a guru can ignite his energies into a different dimension. That aspect of guru's role in a spiritual seeker's life is very well fulfilled by the Dhyana Linga. Dhyana Linga can ignite one's energies into a completely new dimension of vibrance and possibility.
Whenever I have some free time, I go there because this place is full of life. Actually, it took me a while to be able to experience this consecrated space, but now I really enjoy sitting there. I just feel happy, loved, and sometimes overwhelmed with this feminine energy, which is something I cannot even describe in words.
I feel like a sense of protection from the Devi and also a sense of warmth, which just makes me feel really grounded and protected, and it's really nice. It's a really nice experience.
If you want to experience Dhyana Linga, you need awareness, you need alertness, you need to be meditative, sitting still. But if you want to know her, you need aliveness, you need exuberance of life, you need madness of devotion.
Out of the whole Isha Yoga Center, we usually spend most of our time in the Adiyogi Alayam. We eat there, we sleep there, we do our practice there. I notice whenever I'm in the Adiyogi Alayam, my practices happen in a completely different way. No one's there to really give me the correction, but somehow I have no idea how, but somehow the practices are getting corrected on their own, and just certain asanas that I really had a lot of struggle with, and like specifically Matsyendrasana, like for a very long time I had the flexibility to get my arm behind, but just a few minor adjustments and changes kind of allowed me to get in the asana, and that's something that's really unique to Adiyogi alone.
The Adiyogi that we created in the Adiyogi Alayam was mainly created as a repository of Hatha Yoga. It's a little difficult to explain to you how a form is a repository. But today it should be easy for you to understand, for this generation of people, it should be easier to understand, because today you understand, you can carry a small USB and you know this stick has lot of information in it. So if this stick can store information, you can also store it in another form. So this is a composite, let's call it a computer if you like it that way. It's a composite computer which is a certain storehouse of information, a certain storehouse of energy, a certain storehouse of reverberation, which will reverberate for a very, very long time. So, I thought it's a fundamental responsibility to put Hatha Yoga in a certain repository which cannot be distorted. It's always available. If there are people, if there is a person who is willing to receive, he will know Hatha Yoga in its purest form, not as it is taught, but as the way the system is. Hatha Yoga is not something that you teach to someone, it is something that you make somebody realize what is the nature and the geometry of his system. As he understands the geometry of his own making, then he will find the right postures for himself. And invariably it'll be the same postures. There is an intrinsic intelligence and a competence here, right inside of you, which can make an apple into a human being. If this has to blossom and find expression in many different ways, it needs a conducive atmosphere. That is what is a consecrated space. If you create consecrated space, if maximum number of people are constantly in touch with consecrated spaces, you would see human beings blossom with a completely different sense of wholeness, homogeneity, an organic way of looking at life, above all, full-fledged human beings, not lopsided human beings. This must happen.
Be a multiplier of love and knowledge. Share this video with those you love, and together, let's spread light throughout the world.